Uncharted is a simple, safe, but ultimately pretty effective introduction to treasure hunter Nathan Drake. Fans of the beloved PlayStation games might be surprised to see how much has changed to fit an Uncharted story in a single movie's runtime, but it all makes for a decently fun sampling of what Nate and Sully have to offer on the big screen.
Oh crap!
For an origin story, Uncharted ironically doesn't waste any time explaining the backstories of any of the characters. We're immediately thrown into the exploits of cocky young thief Nathan Drake, played by Tom Holland, and veteran treasure hunter Victor Sullivan, played by Mark Wahlberg. They're both looking for the next big score, and that's really all the backstory you need to know. It doesn't take long for Nate and Sully to meet up with Sophia Ali's mysterious Chloe Fraser, a fun and energetic addition who keeps everyone in this world-spanning adventure on their toes. As a fan of the games, the biggest question I had was if Holland could pull off Nathan Drake, playing a slightly younger version of the character we know. The answer, thankfully, is yes.
Okay, whoa, let me guess. Pina colada?
He's as charismatic as ever, sinking his teeth into playing an Indiana Jones type. I was never once distracted by the fact that this is the same actor who played Spider-Man in one of the biggest movies ever just a couple months ago. Wahlberg does a decent job playing a wisecracking mentor to Holland, but some of the things that make Sully so recognizable in the game didn't survive the transition to film. Sully is iconic, at least in part, because of his thick mustache and dark, booming voice, none of which Wahlberg has.
Hey kid, a little young for a bartender, aren't you?
That being said, Wahlberg and Holland have fun chemistry, including some very good emotional scenes, so it's mostly pretty easy to look past him not being entirely loyal to the source material. The cat and mouse plot doesn't take itself too seriously, which is exactly what I would expect from a movie based on the Uncharted games. Basically, if this were a 2-hour video game cutscene, which I guess is technically a movie anyway, I never felt like I wanted to press the skip button. Nate, Sully, and Chloe get into their fair share of fights, chase scenes, and booby traps as they go about collecting clues, solving puzzles, and traveling the world. It's all pretty straightforward, but there were plenty of fun reminders that I was watching an Uncharted movie. For example, very early on, Nate bumps into fellow treasure hunter Moncada, played by Antonio Banderas, and the way they exchange quips is endearing in a cartoonish sort of way. These types of scenes will be fun for a casual audience, but for those familiar with the games, it's a loving recreation of the defining traits we know and love the most about Nathan Drake. Speaking of the villains, the ones here are mostly forgettable. Their storylines are anticlimactic and one-dimensional, and any motives for seeking the big treasure beyond simple greed are unclear. In a way, though, it's oddly fitting, because while the Uncharted games have featured many antagonists, the real evil has always been about what greed can do to people. That theme is present throughout the movie, and that's good enough for me. My favorite scenes in Uncharted all lived in the final act, where we finally see Nate and Sully in their element of pirate caves, shootouts, and shouting one-liners while being attacked by henchmen. It's not until the end that we truly see the movie lean into its video game counterpart, with Holland running, jumping, and narrowly escaping death in moments that could have easily been a QuickTime event. The love for the games is especially present in 2 mid-credit scenes, and it made me wonder why this movie couldn't have been more of a direct interpretation. It left me wanting more in a frustrating way. Still, if it's your first experience with Uncharted, it's a solid adventure that benefits from Holland's charm, no matter how straightforward the plot might be. Uncharted is a safe but serviceable sampling of a new globe-spanning adventure. This should be effective in introducing the world of Uncharted to people who are meeting Nate and friends for the first time, although the changes it makes can be inexplicable and jarring to those of us who've spent many games with these characters. For more movie reviews, check out what we thought of Death on the Nile and Jackass Forever. And for everything else, stick with IGN.